Welcome, Reanimated fans, to this week's episode of Reanimated. See what I did there? Awesome. Today, we are going to be talking about Fear the Walking Dead, episode 13. And it's a doozy of an episode, so I'm really excited to be talking about that today. As always, my intrepid co-host, Stuart Tiffin, is here with us. Hello, Stuart.
Hey, HA. Looking forward to some group therapy for this, talking over this episode.
Yeah, but there's some interesting things to chat about, so I'm just kind of psyched to speak and debate with you today. And we do have a couple of news tidbits. We're going to just forego a lot of the zombie walk stuff that's been going on, as is usual this time of year. But if you are zombie walking, stay safe. Keep, looking out for traffic and that kind of thing. And definitely have a lot of fun with that. But a couple of things in the news. There's a lot of Walking Dead news because there's been a lot of rumors, and again, that time of year. There's an article you found, Stuart, just about how some of the members of the cast of The Walking Dead have received death threats, and this is usually related to a storyline people don't like or something that's happening with the characters. Not shockingly, Seth Gilliam definitely received death threats, as did who plays Father Gabriel.
Yep.
And then also, not shockingly, our friend who played Andrea.
Lori Holden. Yep.
Lori Holden has received some. I can't even imagine the death threats that the actor that played Chris from Fear the Walking Dead got. But
you know what? Yeah, and it's surprising that he was such a nice, well-adjusted kid when I would see him on Talking Dead.
Yeah.
It seems so nice. And then also Josh McDermott is mentioned in this article, and I had seen a lot of stuff about him quitting social media based on online bullying was what it was attributed to. I didn't realize it was actually about his character's plotline. And this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Oh, all of it is, because I definitely think, look, you know what? It's cool to like the shows. It's definitely cool to be into all of this kind of thing and to maybe disagree with the way that the plot is going. You and I definitely do not pull any punches when we're being critical about certain things that are unfolding on the shows. But I would never personally hold the actor accountable for what their character is doing on the show. These are separate things. So I'll admit to you, I found this article to be troubling. And I just feel really bad because, these are not easy shows to do. They're very draining. You definitely, you're always going to have to deal with a rabid fandom, so to speak. But it just seems very unfair to me that they have to go out there and deal with some of this stuff in real life. I mean, all you want to do is enjoy a cup of coffee and then you get, given a hard time because your death scene was really crappy or something. I don't know. I just think this is to me, this is just taking things too far.
Of course. I mean, anytime you send someone a death threat, you're taking things too far.
No, it's not. Honestly, it doesn't. It's not even taking things that far. I just think if you can't separate those characters from the actor, that's crazy. Just stop it, people. Be nice to our Walking Dead actors, no matter how loathsome their characters may be. That just shows they're good actors. Yeah. But anyway, I was definitely bothered by that. Just really, it's not a fun thing to do, especially when these actors give so much joy to us who are into this kind of thing. So. Right.
Yeah. And I mean, Josh McDermott quit all of social media. It just sucks. And his response to this situation is you know what? The internet is on a kind of a dark place where people who are already, leaning towards tendencies of this sort of, I don't know what to call this behavior other than antisocial, have it's like a petri dish without lighting where things can happen and there aren't a lot of consequences. And that just leads to really, really shitty behavior. And so it just depresses me a little bit to think that there are people out there who think it's okay to make people feel bad for no good reason.
Right. So anyway, stop that and stop friends don't let friends do this kind of crazy thing. And hopefully, they have enough positive things going on, because I do think that a lot of fans are very cool and are very nice and supportive and things like that. And I think we saw a lot of that, especially when the stuntman that unfortunately died this past summer. When all of that happened, I think that people had a lot of support. So it's clearly not the majority, but these outliers, a little scary. In any case, on to the next lighter story, which is that it's something that I think that, if you're on the West Coast and you want to do this, apparently there is an open call for people to learn the Thriller dance, but specifically in Sonoma County, and you can basically do this for the next 3 Sundays to learn to dance like somebody undead, and then attend one of these free workshops. And then on October 28th, people around the world are going to try to do a worldwide Thrill the World event, where they do this dance. So I know somebody who lives on the West Coast that might want to do this.
Just stop it. Not gonna do it. Even though it's only 20 minutes away from my house.
Yep. Just saying. If you want more information, you can drop Ellen an email at thrilltheworldthedancecenter@gmail.com. And this is happening. Let's see.
It's like the next
workshops.
3 Sundays?
I think we missed one, but so it's the next 2 Sundays, 11:30 a.m. on Sunday. So anyway, go and be there, people, if you're willing to do it. And so, all kidding aside, although I am, I would love to see it. I would love to see it. Come on.
I know you're not kidding. That's the thing. I'm just not the most graceful of human beings, so I don't think I could do the Thriller dance. It's justice.
I don't think you need grace. I think you need awkwardness for the Thriller dance. But anyway, I'll let you off. I'm gonna put you out of your misery now, so we can talk about the episode, which I know you will be happy to talk about.
Yeah, let me provide the disclaimer up front. This is a fairly recent episode of television. We don't often talk about stuff that's just come out. But if you've listened to us doing this series of recaps on Fear the Walking Dead, we've been doing spoilers. But this one it's a pretty big episode for spoilers, I guess, as far as the way this season's been going. So just be warned.
Yeah. So the title of this episode, Fear the Walking Dead, episode 13, This Land is Your Land. And this is... How many more episodes do we have left in the season right now?
I think it's a total of 16, so 2 more.
2 more.
Or 3 more? I don't know. I can do math.
But they are, they are taking it up a notch. And so, I don't know, this had some interesting themes in it. And just to remind everybody where we left off last time, we had a lot of the ranchers stuck in the pantry after a very poorly defended, hidden sort of thing, like of an attack of a huge walker herd came through the ranch courtesy of Troy, and instead of being stealthy, everybody was not. We lost a lot of people, and now they're stuck in the pantry, and Nick and Troy are on the outside basically trying to figure out what to do. So it picks up pretty much right from there.
Yeah, we had Nick and Troy on the outside, and also although we hadn't seen them in a couple episodes, we knew that Maddie and Taka were on their way back from the dam with the water truck.
Yep.
But we haven't seen them, and it seems like a lot has happened in the last 24 hours on the at the ranch, right? Like they went through like a civil war to getting overrun by a horde, and then but yeah, so we start this episode realizing that some of the people who have come inside the shelter have been bitten up to, and including one of the last recognizable members of the militia, this guy with short hair who's had some speaking lines, but whose name I've never learned. You know who I'm talking about, right?
I do, the blonde guy.
Yeah, the blonde guy. He was with Coop when they brought the gun to Nick after Troy got arrested or whatever. So he's part of that like rancher militia active, I don't know, military type dudes. we lost Coop in the last episode. Now we realize this guy's also not long for this world. And it creates a very interesting conundrum that gets played out in an unexpected, but I guess necessary way throughout the course of this episode, where the people who are bitten can't stay there. Or how that, I mean, how, let's just talk big picture for a second. Did this episode throw you for some loops?
Yeah, there was definitely some things that they threw in here, and I thought that in theory, these ideas were things, I'll be honest with you, these are things that we would talk about just in terms of the problem with all of them being in this one small space and that kind of thing. There was a lot thrown at us in this one just from the get-go. So first of all, we have a ventilation issue, Houston.
Yep.
And that is something that I do think was an interesting twist to throw in here.
Although the whole ventilation thing was kind of a, I don't know the right term for this because I never went to film school, but it's like the opposite of a Deus Ex Machina. It's like an invented problem or
right.
a problem that is made way more complicated than it should have been.
It was, and I will say my skepticism about this being an issue on the ranch, the fact that they wouldn't have thought of this, we're talking about some doomsday prepper action going on and things that have been thought out probably a little bit too much. And so I don't really buy that this is something that would happen. I think that they would have just as much air. Everything would be running smoothly, I think.
And you'd have redundancies.
Right.
Any system like this would have redundancies. But that's one main problem, I agree. And the second one is, why is the vent so long that it takes an hour to crawl through?
Right.
And why does it have like ups and downs and twists and turns?
Because it wouldn't be like fun if it was easy, Stuart.
And then why is also where it lets out at the surface apparently just a big hole that
I don't know.
Things or zombies can fall through and get caught in the fan.
And potentially block things off if want to get into it. So that was an issue, but still they introduced this problem, and it is a pretty big problem because they're gonna get poisoned by carbon monoxide eventually, and then.
But also the figuring out that they were gonna get poisoned, run out of oxygen. Alicia figures that out like in a notepad with a pencil.
Yeah, that was
Alicia
weird.
is not even a high school graduate.
Right. So that's going on. And then there's also the issue of a lot of the people in there have been bitten. And, just what we know of human nature, I don't buy that all these people would have volunteered. There's always going to be one guy or gal that's going to, avoid telling people. We see this happen multiple times in every scenario. So they did this. I did think that this was an interesting way to handle things. And unlike what I thought was going to happen in the scenario. So basically the idea is that everybody who is bitten volunteers and gets taken out of their misery by Alicia.
Because she's the only non-extra cast member left in the vault at this point. Because Crazy Dog and Ophelia are the two people who are like, we're going to go into the vents.
Right.
And Short-Hair Guy is with her for a little while, but then he has to have his exit scene too, leaving Alicia as the only character that we know, and they kind of get around that by introducing a new character. But it's weird, they've killed off so many of the people that we knew who had speaking roles. Right. I really feel like they should have just kept Claw alive for this episode. That would have solved some of these problems. Right. Alicia and Claw could have bonded. I don't know.
Right, but that's not what happened.
No, that's not how it went at all.
she's in the vault with a bunch of extras, and what that means is that they have to have her bond with somebody, which they do. To have her play off of this poor woman.
That was my only, other than I like this woman's lines. Her name's Christine. I never picked that up in the episode until I was reading later. I like her lines to begin with when she's persuading some of the bitten people start to have second thoughts. They're like, no, I can't do this. My family needs me. And this woman's like, dude, we're going to give you morphine. It's the best feeling in the world. You're going to be in heaven before you get there. I was like, nice. These are good. I thought she was one of the bitten people. I didn't know where she was coming from. We've never seen this character before.
Right.
But then she has a couple of other little nuggets of wisdom. But then there's a long dialogue. It felt very long. I don't know how long it was between her and Alicia that I had trouble staying tuned in for. That was about 2/3 of the way through the episode.
Yeah, that was a little bit boring. Not boring, but just didn't really. I felt like the writing there is weird, and the only purpose I can see of that is bringing Alicia back to some nostalgic thing she had with her brother or something, and remembering.
Maybe that's supposed to inform her decision that she makes at the end of the episode. But honestly, yeah. This is a very much an Alicia episode. This episode is kind of designed to show her going through this insane experience and coming out the side altered. So by the end of the episode, she is a kind of a different person, or just more like herself than before. I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell.
Right. But I will say that the whole horrible thing that she does have to go through, you give these people morphine and then you kill them. I did think that their treatment of how traumatized she is by this was an important thing to do. And I do, but I do feel like it is a little strange. Like, it's very clear that she's the only main cast character left in this big group of people, and she's the only one stepping up. Like, why should she have to do this by herself?
No, makes no sense.
It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So that's kind of weird. However, I do like the fact that they're having her go through this, that she is taking charge and is just doing what she's got to do here.
She's like a 17-year-old girl taking care of 40 people. I don't know how many of them are in there. Explain to me how. Remember, I was saying why did they all go outside the pantry without very much ammunition in the last episode, and then in this episode, one of the dudes who's been bitten, and they're coming up with a way that they're gonna have them all be killed, is like, we don't have enough ammunition for everyone. There's like 10 of them.
Right. Yes.
What happened to all the bullets?
Right. Where are they?
I mean, they show her also like going through magazines looking for ammunition. This place, I don't understand this. This was not explained at all.
No, unless something happened that we don't know about. Like, I was also very confused by this.
They've gone through thousands, maybe maybe hundreds of thousands of rounds of ammunition. This is the end of the world bunker. This is where all the bullets are, or should be. So I'm very confused as to how they're out of bullets, and that was the entire basis of Madison's deal with the dam.
Right.
Like, this is even more mind-blowing than we're out of water, you know? So, yeah. She has to stab them all with her butterfly knife, and she's obviously not doing great with it. It's a tough one, but then she has this Christine woman to talk to, and that's also when we realize that her O2 calculations must have been off, because she's a 17-year-old girl and who's taken some advanced algebra, but not really, air dynamics or whatever the hell class you need to take to figure out how much oxygen you have in a room for 100 people.
Right. And then the inevitable is going to be happening, but before we talk about that...
Have you ever had hypoxia?
Thank God, no.
I had to do that because I was in the Air Force, so you go into an oxygen chamber or go up to a simulated altitude and do math problems and figure out how quickly you lose your mental abilities, and look for the physical signs, like your cuticles turn blue. I forget there's a word for that, but I forget what it is. At 20,000 feet in real life, like off of oxygen in an unpressurized aircraft. And it's surprising how quickly you lose consciousness. And it's so, she has some fights. There's a fight scene or two later on where she fights for several seconds against the zombie, where I'm thinking, like, even adrenaline probably wouldn't have gotten her through that. But long story short, don't get hypoxia. It will lay you out. And I did some research, and it turns out that actually, I thought you didn't die from hypoxia right away. I thought you would just, like, sleep for a long time. Turns out your brain cells can start to die in as short a time as 5 minutes after you lose all the... Because, your brain needs oxygen. And so brain cells start to just die, basically, that quickly. So, pro tip, don't get it.
Yeah, don't get hypoxia. And, the issue that this poses for our intrepid extras and Alicia is that basically they're all locked up in this tiny little area, and when people start dying, we know what will start happening. So even though Alicia is taking care of all these people who have gotten bitten, then basically the whole crowd there is going to pose a bigger threat, ultimately. And I will say that the way that the show handles this is just completely terrifying because you're kind of losing strength and all that kind of thing, yet you can see that these people are turning and having to defend yourself. And so she barely gets out of it with one person. And luckily, it's just one person, I guess, that animates at a time, or at least at this point.
Well, in one horrifying scene, we see three of them just stand up all at once.
Yep.
Which is actually, it's cool. It was cool. I got the chills.
Yep. That was creepy. And you're kind of freaking out because it feels very just terrifying. And then, meanwhile, you also have Alicia and Crazy Dog running through vents, a lot of vents, and, talking to each other. She's helping him out because he's hyperventilating and having a panic attack. And then you also have the buddy cop film going on with Nick and Troy.
Yeah,
which is really strange.
They accomplish nothing.
I'm just kind of like, okay, so you're going to go and take over this helicopter to distract them. Just nothing. And then it gets down to like the one bullet question pretty quickly with them. So that was kind of weird. But
yeah, the storyline worth watching was definitely the Alicia one all the way through, because like I said, the vent thing felt too much like a red herring, and the Ophelia Crazy Dog thing just went on too long. I feel like they should have gotten into a vent, climbed about 50 feet at the most, and unplugged whatever was broken. Honestly, what they should have done is just flipped a switch from primary to secondary air inside the bunker, and I've been like, okay, problem solved. We're going to be fine. Let's just wait it out. But nope, it was not to be.
Yep. It was, yeah. So, but the Alicia stuff, I definitely felt like they were, setting up this whole particular episode for Alicia, which I thought was good. And despite some of the artificial things that they set up for her, I still thought she handled herself admirably. And it was absolutely terrifying, to be stuck in this hole with all these, walkers. How she is the only one kind of staying conscious is I do have questions about, but I guess that's how it is because you're the only main cast member left.
When you're the only one with lines, you get to fight off the lack of oxygen the longest. Most tragic about this is there are children in here. There is at least a few children in here. We don't see them die or get eaten or turn into zombies, but we know that they're there because we've seen them in several scenes. So to me, this is like one of the most affecting scenes in Walking Dead franchise history because of that. I don't know how you felt about it. I know you hate children zombies.
I do.
They're basically in there. You're just not seeing them.
Yep. Yeah, and we really didn't see any of them. They did not do up any of the children zombies for our my terror.
But it's just so tragic. Like I definitely did not expect them to kill off the entire tribe and the entire ranchers, survivors of those two groups.
Yeah, I didn't either. I thought there would at least be like a few survivors out of that vault, and that does not appear to be what they did.
No, they definitely they killed everybody and reanimated a few. Well, yeah. Basically, by the time Alicia does pass out after having her zombie fight, and by the time she wakes up, it's basically just everybody's dead or being eaten. Right. And then the rescue scene is kind of this cavalry arrives. Most of it happens off camera. There's a big explosion, which is either Maddie and Taka blowing up the fuel reserve or Ophelia and Crazy Dog doing it. They bail out Nick and Troy from the helicopter. The helicopter was such a bust, like we were saying earlier, but they only actually kill one zombie with the tail rotor. And
that's it. And then they're like, okay, this is the end. It's really strange.
It was lame.
And then I do have like my biggest, the Troy storyline. Again, like Troy is responsible for all of this. Why on earth is Nick going to protect Troy in this case?
Yeah, no, not cool. My notes were quite absurdly anti that.
Well, and also it's like you're now like Alicia's asking what happened to Jake, and then suddenly Nick's covering for Troy, much like Madison has done in the past. And Troy looks at him, and it's like he's not grateful. He is a crazy sociopath. Like he's not grateful. He's crazy, and he will do this again. And then it's all weird because Madison's like, "Oh yeah, Nick, you should go with Troy." It's like, why? Why? I don't know that you would want anybody to be alone with Troy.
Yeah.
I don't know. Sorry, I don't mean to be crazy, but
no,
this
you're
is
not.
like...
You're not, because the last time Madison saw Troy, she was pointing a gun at him and thinking whether or not she should kill him.
Right.
Right. That was not so
right.
long ago. That was 2 days ago.
Right. And then
yeah.
we do have the what should have been a satisfying bit of news given to Ophelia that her dad's alive, and so that
I
was
felt
like
this was satisfying. Like, she takes the news in a really good way.
No, she takes it in a good way. I don't know why I always expect it to be a little bit bigger or whatever. And so the plan is to go back to the dam. And, with this storyline, because they've basically killed everybody off at the ranch, that gives them freedom to go there. And they don't have to worry about anybody else at this point. Though I will say that now that everybody is dead at the ranch, there's more resources. I guess there's a big horde of walkers there, but clear those out and you got less people using up the resources of this land, right?
Well, they didn't show it in detail, but they made it seem like blowing up the fuel somehow has rendered the camp completely unusable.
Well, and then the other interesting thing is that, okay, so they had this deal for all this water to bring ammo over to the dam. Let's hope there's some ammo left after what Alicia was saying. So who knows if they'll even be able to get into the dam. So maybe it's good that, and big spoiler alert, Alicia has now decided not to go to the dam because she needs to be alone. She can't be with anybody, all that jazz. And she's going to her little hideaway cabin that Jake conveniently brought up in the last episode. She's very, she is basically saying nothing happens good together or apart, so I'm going to go and be in this cabin. And then, oddly enough, Nick, along with Troy, his sidekick, are going to be following her to make sure she gets there safe or something. I don't know what the thought process behind this is.
Because she won't see a tail in a
right, that's what I mean.
Post-apocalyptic desert landscape. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, at least Troy knows where the cabin is. Maybe they could take a different route. But Alicia making this decision, maybe it makes sense on a character development level, but isn't this just more of the same BS meta plot stuff where they just take the cast members and spread them out? Like, we're about to have Ophelia and Daniel get back together for the first time in a season. But now Alicia is going to be off, and Nick and Troy. It's like why can't they just have the families or the groups stay in one place? Alicia can't honestly think that she is going to survive on her own in this environment.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. It's like, okay, yes, together, apart, like what you're saying in theory, I guess makes sense. But you only just really started taking care of zombies. There's lots of stuff going on out there. And if anything that you have learned is that there's a lot of evil people out there and you're one person alone. This is not a good, they're not good odds there for you to be surviving.
Perhaps that will be the lesson that she learns in the desert. She'll run into some bad people.
Yeah, but I don't know. This just seems like a silly decision, and I think I agree with you. I think it's just them kind of splitting people up arbitrarily.
At this point in the plot, what do you think about the odds of seeing Luciana ever again?
Yeah, who knows? Maybe she will show up here because now they're off the ranch.
Yeah. It was just like, I had no idea that this was gonna happen.
Yeah,
I didn't. As an audience member, I'm just like, wait, what? Huh?
Yeah, it was a little bit. You just
spent 12, 13 episodes building up this community, and then you just wipe it away.
Yep. And then Madison gives up pretty easily too. She's like, okay, take care of yourself. And then she wants Nick to stay with her, and there's all this weird stuff, and I'm like, this weird tension between everybody, and it just seems a little silly.
Taka does not seem overwrought by the loss of his entire tribe, other than Crazy Dog.
Shockingly, right?
Like, there are 2 black hats left in the entire world.
Yep. So I guess we shall see what the next 3 episodes bring, and what other extras from the cast they are planning to kill off.
I'm just like, honestly, I'm just in shock even talking about it again. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe you don't feel the same way I do, but I was just like, good grief. It's one thing for them to kill off the entire hotel, which is kind of what it seemed like they had done when Daniel and Strand were last there. We didn't see Elena, or Hector, but they kind of made it seem like the whole hotel was dead. But, no big deal.
Right.
Those people were kind of jerks, but yeah. Adios, Broke Jaw Ranch.
Yep. So yeah. So I guess on to the next piece, which I guess is the dam, and we'll see what happens there, and maybe Alicia's cabin in the woods.
So just a couple of logistics. That episode was written by Suzanne Heathcote and written by Suzanne Heathcote and directed by Mira Menon.
Correct.
Double lady duo.
Mm-hmm.
And the audience has gone up by a good 300,000, so 2.36 million. So props. I think that was a good one for that boost. It was a good episode for a bigger audience. Next one is going to be episode 14. That's coming up on October 8th, pretty soon here, and it's going to be called El Matadero, which I don't know what that means. Is that like a little matador?
I guess so. So we'll see what happens. And if you have some comments about carbon dioxide, hypoxia, killing off extras, let us know. Shoot us an email at reanimatedpodcast@gmail.com or leave a note on our website, reanimatedpodcast.com, or tweet at us at reanimatedpcast. And I am excited to see what the next 3 episodes hold. So I'm kind of feeling like if they did something big like this in this episode, maybe some main characters are going to bite it in one or all of the next 3 episodes. So we'll definitely stay tuned for that.
Who could it be?
I don't know. I have theories.
Maybe it's going to become the Taka Crazy Dog Ophelia show, and the whole Clark family will just bite it.
Disappear. I don't know. We shall see.
Right.
Anything else to add?
No, that's it. I just hope that the next one doesn't do such a doozy on my heartstrings.
Yeah, this definitely came out of left field for me. I was not thinking that this was I was expecting something like this later on, maybe, but definitely not in this particular scenario. So until next time, ciao.
See ya.